Hello, I'm so happy to be here with you today to kick off our International Women of Risk event in support of International Women's Day. My name is Cindy Izzo, and I lead KPMG's Emerging Technology Risk Practice and have the pleasure of co-leading the U.S. Women of Risk community with Lisa Rawls. And today, I am your moderator. Last fall, we were excited to launch our International Women of Risk Network in Milan, Italy. Our mission is to support and connect women in the risk profession globally and to foster personal and professional growth. We're excited to report that we are now a virtual community of over 23 countries and growing strong. As you know, March 8th is International Women's Day. What better way to celebrate this event than bringing together some of the most amazing women in the risk profession who have all great stories to share with you today. Our theme for the panel is cultural diversity, personal and professional growth, and resiliency.
My name is Jolene Young. I am from South Africa. I have worked in about 15 countries across the continent and have been in payments and risk for 20 years. And I was given an opportunity to come and work in North America. So I'm based in Toronto. I'm the national lead for payments for KPMG, doing what I did in Africa to start up the practice and get people trained and start getting a better understanding of what the key risks across the payments landscape is.
Hi, I'm Sam Glodia, Managing Director here in the New York office in our Emerging Technology Risk Practice. As you can tell, I'm not American, but this is my chosen home. I love it. I'm Australian, started with the firm 21 years ago, so I'm a lifer at KPMG, but certainly don't feel like I've had one job for 21 years. I've had such a great fortune to work in my home country of Australia, now in the United States, and over the course of 21 years across Asia Pacific, Europe and the Americas. So I'm really happy today to be on the panel to talk about cultural diversity and some of the experiences that I've had that have led me to where I am today.
And Annabelle.
Hello everyone, I'm Annabelle Rioch. I'm from our London office in the UK. I'm a forensic partner and like Sam, I've been at KPMG for 19 years, so I'm also a lifer at KPMG. I started my life in audit, which all the great people do, but then I saw the light and moved across into risk consulting. Since then, I've worked in investigations and compliance. With a focus on bribery and corruption, which means I've been evacuated from an oil rig in Azerbaijan, I've been escorted by armed guard in Nigeria, and I've uncovered significant forgery during a long-running investigation in China. So I've worked internationally across the world, had a fantastic experience. I'm also mum of 2 small children, and KPMG has been a fantastic supporter of my journey in a personal life and professional life. So I'm really glad to be here today on the panel.
Thank you so much, Annabelle, and thank you, ladies, for being here with us today. So I'd like to start my first question with you, Jolene. You spent over, your career, visited 15 countries and working across Africa. Can you share with us how that experience was and how it maybe changed over the course of your career?
Certainly. I started out in South Africa. I didn't get into payments until there was a merger and they wanted me to move again. So I went into the transformation of the national payment system. And as I got into that, I was the one woman in a team of men. So if you have a look at the challenges that you'd face, looking through how you would go through your daily life, catching up with the boys club and understanding what are the key things that you would need to maintain integrity for yourself and also change the key things that you needed to change. From a cultural diversity perspective, it was a very interesting beginning of my journey. I started traveling into Africa in about 2002, and I was the only woman going into central banks at that point in time, and the central bank top structure was only men. And going through that, for you to have gain the respect, it was more difficult. It wasn't that you would just show up and you'd show your knowledge. It was more difficult to get through the key things that you needed to discuss with them. And only after a number of years, looking through regulatory changes, looking through the risks that are imminent in the payment system, and gaining their trust, was I able to change some of their behaviors toward me And only in the last 5 to 8 years have we seen a number of women actually coming up in the payments space. And in South Africa, they're a lot more prominent, but in Africa, it was more difficult because the women didn't have the same opportunities as we would have. And for them to go through, the most rewarding thing for me was I was headhunted by KPMG from Standard Bank, and the lady leading the financial services practices for Africa, she looked to me and said, how are we going to change the way in which we have the payments environment? And through that, I was able to mentor and coach a number of women. And the last piece of work that I did was in Kenya, and it was so rewarding to see that the new head of the National Payment System Department in Kenya is a woman.
That's fantastic.
And going through that, I've had experiences where there have been 6 women who were dependent on international aid, and they've actually created a very successful bank. And Fahulu means community. And if you look at what they've done with what they started out, they have done an amazing job. And through the persistence of strong women, the panel and in the audience, through the diligence and the resilience of strong women, we can make a change. We can make a change without making it an issue.
That's great, and it's very inspiring to hear. Sam, you spent a significant time of your career in Asia Pacific. How did that shape your career, and were there any individuals, through your career that inspired or impacted you?
Yeah, I think I've been really fortunate. At the very earliest stage, I guess I was 1 year in as a graduate at KPMG in Perth. They needed some help in the Hong Kong office, so I went up there. It was my first business trip abroad. I was so homesick, but my parents made me persevere. The best experience in my life. I went there a couple of times, and then that led me to come to New York on a rotation. When I went back to the Australian firm, at the time our global leader of IT advisory, Edge Zarella, was my boss in Australia. And also at that time, Sarbanes-Oxley had come into effect, and the US standards around IT attestation, SAS 70, had become the de facto global standard because no other countries had anything like it. And Edge wanted somebody who had experience delivering that in the United States, but that wasn't an American, to help to build capability and scale across the globe. So at a fairly young age, I took on a regional and global leadership role for one of our products, and had the great fortune of working across so many countries in Asia Pacific, as well as in Europe and the Americas. But in Asia Pacific in particular, the countries really do have very, very different cultures across the region. And Edge was always very insistent that his team, we were representing him, representing the firm, that we must respect and be aware of the cultural differences, whether it's doing business, whether it's socializing, whether it's the way you present yourself. And he taught us a lot, our team, he taught us a lot before we went. And I roll forward now 15 years where I have a global role where I've been for the last 5 or 6 years globalizing our emerging technology risk capabilities, our digital transformation capabilities. And I have this network of people across all of these countries that I've built over 15 years. I understand how their member firms work. I understand how their market and their clients work. And I understand the challenges that we as a firm can face in building new capabilities in these markets. And I just feel so fortunate because I guess I've taken a different career trajectory than a lot of my peers, but I wouldn't trade it for the world because the people that I've met and the experiences I've had, I think have really positioned me and differentiated me to where I am now. So I'm really happy with the journey. In terms of mentors, I did mention Edge, but I've got a lot of mentors from different capacities of my time with KPMG, men and women. And what I think is really amazing, I know Kelly Watson here in the audience is one of my mentors, and in the early days she mentioned sort of having a board of directors, and I would say that with my mentors, everyone sort of has different roles in my life, and you seek on their advice at different times, and I've been so fortunate to have this great network of people globally. So now when I travel, I've got friends and mentors wherever I go. And I'm trying to play that forward as well, and now that I am in a leadership role.
Yeah, and that is part of our mission, connecting women across the globe. So that's a great story. Annabelle, sticking with the theme of mentoring, how have you in the UK mentored women, followed the diversity initiatives for the firm, and how has the diversity initiatives and external networks helped you in your career?
Yeah, thanks. It's a great question, and I think I'm really fortunate to be in a market where the narrative around inclusion and diversity is very mature in the UK. Our Vice Chair, Mel Richards, is a member of the 30% Club, which is an initiative to help women on boards of the FTSE 100 companies. And so we have a really great narrative in that discussion and that debate. But closer to home within the KPMG UK office, we have a number of networks which I'm a representative on. The KPMG Network of Women is fantastic. It gets us together, it gets us talking. IT's Her Future, and the Parenting Network. But the important aspect of all of those, and I think we've been really focused on, is having men involved in those networks. Because I think sometimes, and when initially women's initiatives kick off, there is a whole focus on women, and the men are sort of saying, hey, what about me? And we're like, well, you've always had your club. It's just we're trying to create our own club. But actually what we need, and it's great to see some men in the audience here today, is that male voice and that male understanding of some of the challenges we face. So I think that's been really important. And I really hear what Sam was saying about having a board of directors or stakeholder management. And for me, that's also been really important in the UK firm. I have a number of different mentors and stakeholders who play a part and have played a part in my career journey. And particularly, I think, for me, it's typical of many women, I think. You sometimes get to a point in your career, you don't know if you're ready for the next challenge or the next stage of the career, and it takes someone to sort of tap you on the shoulder or give you that boost of confidence to make you take that step forward. And I had a number of men in the UK firm who really stepped forward and said, Annabelle, we know you can do this. We want to put you forward. And that really helped me in my career. And I think that's really important for all of us, just to recognize when women are perhaps not shouting as loudly as others, that we need to look out for them and make sure that they are considered. And that's a role I play now as well, in a people partner role that I have, making sure that our shortlists are diverse and that we've really considered whether all of the candidates, the really great talent that we have, are properly included on that shortlist, and it's not just because the people who've shouted loudest that we've put on the shortlist.
That's fantastic. So, Jolene, what would you do if we could actively challenge where we are from an inclusion and diversity perspective right now? What is it that we need to do next to keep the momentum going?
To respond to that, I want to take a step back. Taking a step back in what I've seen over the past 3 or 4 years is forcefully pushing women forward and saying that you need to have a certain percentage of your quota needs to be women so that women can hear it. But when I look at what I think we should do, and this is from my own opinion, from my own experiences, I've had a number of, just as Annabelle and Sam have had, a number of men who have been really great mentors. But I've also had really strong women who didn't need to have somebody say, but you need to appoint her because she's a woman. So when we look at this, we need to understand that one size does not fit all. Not every girl, not every woman coming into a professional environment will act, behave, and aspire to do the same thing. The other thing is to understand where they've come from and to pay attention and recognize when they're struggling. And I think that is equally for men and for women, is to pay attention to the people working with you and be perceptive to where they're struggling. The next thing would be, let us be kind to each other. I find women are women's biggest critics. And what we do is we show men how we expect them to treat us by the way we talk about other women. So those are the things that if we're going to go forward and change, and we're going to look at the diversity is around capabilities, around the ability and leadership styles of women. It is looking for that softness that is in each one of us, but to take it into a professional environment where you can make a difference. and compassion. Let's not forget the key word compassion, and understand that there will be times where we just will not want to do it. Yeah?
Totally. Just picking up on that point there, it's around the traits of women and the traits of men, and how sometimes they can be looked on differently. An example of that is a woman who might be stressed and overwhelmed might cry or sort of look a little bit flustered. A man might start to shout, and actually women are then seen or considered to be weaker because of that, whereas the man is being strong and forceful and dominant. And I think, you know, there's got to be recognition that actually all of those different traits are really important to diverse leadership, and making sure that we actually have the compassion and empathy with our teams and how we work.
And I would just say, when we talk about compassion, I think we can be our own worst critics, and we need to learn to forgive ourselves and move forward, because it's from those moments and those mistakes that we learn and we grow.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm really glad that we've all mentioned, you know, male mentors. They have been a big part of my career as well. And Sam, I'd like to just, you know, maybe you can share with us someone who's been inspiring to you, or how men have actually helped you in your career and mentored you.
I mean, I think working in technology for the last 20 years, it is what it is. There is a lot of men leading that space, and continue to be. And I guess a concern for me right now in the current sort of cultural, social environment and the Me Too movement, there's a lot of fear, I think, associated with the Me Too movement, and men are perhaps stepping away because they don't want anything to be misinterpreted. So, you know, I would just encourage any men here in the audience or watching to please stay connected and lean in, because diversity is just that. It's diversity of gender, of religion, of race, and our firm and our clients need everything and everyone to really make successful strategies and successful business. And I think that we need the support and the sponsorship and the championship of the senior men in our firm to continue, because I look back on my career, and the majority of things that I've learned have been from really senior and amazing men that I've had the opportunity to work with and learn from. So I guess that's just an ask that I have, that in this current environment, please don't step away. Stay connected with us, and you know, let's make a change together.
I don't pick up on that, Sam. I think for me, a word that comes into that to sum that up is balance. Everything in nature, everything in life, everything in work has got to do with balance. Anything that tips the scale in one direction or the other is going to cause a lot of disruption through the process. And if we look at this thing and we have a balanced view towards the way in which we engage not only our female colleagues but also our male colleagues, and then find that balance in the way we respond in each of those circumstances.
Fantastic. And for those of you that aren't part of Women of Risk, it is open to anyone in the firm, including men, so I encourage you all to please join our network. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here, and Annabelle, I'm going to go to you. Working mom, partner, sounds like a very exciting career with all of the criminal activity out there. How do you stay connected in such a changing world, and, you know, with innovation and technology? How do you do it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, honestly, it's listening to our clients and making the clients at the heart of everything we do. At the end of the day, their voice, their issues, the world in which they are trying to be successful is the world in which we want to help them be successful. So it's only by going out and listening to them and having those discussions with them that we're really able to keep the pace and keep ahead of our clients. Actually, that's what we really want to do, and bring them innovative, thoughtful solutions. So definitely spend a lot of time out there talking to our clients. We are so lucky at KPMG to have such incredible talent throughout the firm, throughout all the different areas, technology, risk, and so it's bringing teams together to really innovate and think about new ideas. In the world of risk and regulation, which is sort of where I live and breathe, it's around horizon scanning and thinking what's next on the horizon for our clients, and what do we need to develop to help them. And I guess sort of balancing that with home life, just that's the kind of focus of the panel, it's about integrating and finding the balance of work and home life at the same time, because there's a lot of networking and business development that's important, and it's an important aspect. But actually, I think many of our clients don't want to spend every evening going out with us. They want to see us in the morning or at lunchtime so we can all get home to our families. And I think there is a change happening. So I think that helps in being able to keep connected with our clients while still running a home and running work.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we all kind of sense that. I know, Sam, we talked about that a little bit. Like, there's 3 dinners this week. I'm going to have to, like, miss one of them to be able to be home with my family. So, and I think a lot of that, too, has been influenced by women being in the workforce. We sometimes make those tough decisions to skip an important dinner to go to a dance recital or be home for dinner. So, Jolene, payments here. With all of the automation, robotics, how is your industry changing, and what do you see as the next big, global initiative in that area?
So there were a couple of points. I'll pick up some of the stuff that you've mentioned around the security and so on. If you look at payments, every transaction that anybody concludes in a business deal has got a payment involved. Value transfers from one party to another and information that goes with it. If we have a look at the automation, we look at the key risks that are involved in payments. It's evolved. I was, frankly, surprised when I came to North America and found out that checks are still a prevalent means of payment. Where in Africa, what they did was they didn't have the infrastructure, and we leapfrogged the standards, and we built a technology-driven infrastructure. So mobile payments, technology, even in the insurance market, there's a lot of technology that will connect the weather to a crop that is being insured, and if there's an extended period of rain, that crop will then be covered under the insurance. So when you look at payments, one of my mantras that I have from a payments perspective is, if payments are going quicker than they've been, but slower than they will be again. So if you have a look at the technology, we are making payments quicker. I will just go and just double-click my phone and off the payment goes. But it's the information and the risk around that information. So it's more about the information and how that information gets carried. Who has access to the information? Where do you understand the risks? And you talk about horizon scanning. I went to some very interesting schools where they were teaching people how to defraud checks. What are the key things that you would do if you steal a database for doing illegal debits against anybody's accounts? So from a payments perspective, it brings all of those pieces in. What they do in the internal audit process, is the right checks being adhered to? When you go to cyber risk and fraud at the string of a payment, you'd look through the whole payments value chain and understand where the risk areas lie. But it's going to get more innovative, and it's going to get more challenging. And it's about, if I had to have it in one sentence, protect the information along the value chain.
Great. And Sam, I know you spend a lot of time working globally with digitalization for KPMG and trying to bring us all together with solutions for our client. What do you see as the future?
Well, I think just to add on to what Jolene said, it's such an exciting time because emerging technologies are really disrupting business models, and technology now is at the forefront of business strategy. It's not this back office technology that's enabling what the business does. So it's a really exciting time for the technologists to be a part of the business, and I think now you really can't be in business without having an understanding of technology. And when you talk about the key risks in the payments example that you gave and building that technology from scratch, it's so important when you think about the key risk capabilities, whether it's cyber or governance, risk, compliance, making sure that those capabilities are sort of brought to this side of the value chain. They're just included in the design stage. It increases the value of what we do, and also the ultimate technology solution that's enabled for our clients. I think historically some of the risk capabilities were maybe brought in at the back end to fix problems. We can't have that anymore because you know, what's at stake if there's a cyber incident, or you know, if there's, like you're talking, they're teaching children about how to, you know, attack a payment process. We need to be ahead of that and integrate these risk capabilities right up front. So I think it's a really exciting time, certainly in my career, to be able to be at the forefront of these business strategies. You know, we're doing a lot of work about building these capabilities across the globe, and what I see is, you know, in some of the emerging markets where there is less maturity, it's actually a much bigger opportunity because there's not this strong legacy technology that needs to be ripped out and replaced. And I also think that there's a lot more, you know, incentive to be more agile in these markets. So I think, you know, it's a really exciting time, and I'm really happy to be a part of it, and to see what we're doing in technology risk now being included at the strategy and design stage. I think it's really optimizing the value of the risk function.
That's great. And with all this change, from a regulatory perspective, how do you see, Annabelle, your role changing as a risk professional?
Yeah, I wanted to build a little bit on what Jolene and Sam had said as well. In the world of risk and regulation, I think for us as risk professionals, it's helping our clients understand the interconnectedness of all of those risks. So historically, you would have an enterprise risk management process where you might have individual risk assessments around different pieces of regulation, bribery and corruption, cyber, fraud, money laundering, and so on. And actually, in isolation, one of those risk events might not have much likelihood and the impact might be low. But if you add one or two of those risks together and they all happen at the same time, then the impact can be significant for clients. And so as risk professionals, I think it's helping our clients really get to the heart of that and understand that interconnectedness of risk. And of course, an increasing regulatory backdrop which underpins all of that, so much international legislation that they need to comply with. But also, I'm really pleased to hear that technology playing a part in risk, because what I also see, certainly in the world of bribery and corruption, is data and technology coming together to help our clients proactively understand and get ahead of risk and identify issues before they actually blow up and become something that a regulator might be interested in. So using that to better allocate resources and focus your resources towards those really higher risk areas. But also, where I think it's going is actually the insights that it helps provide to our clients, where they might see in certain markets, these are typically the type of issues we're facing. Why is that? Why is it so challenging in that market? Why has it worked in this market? Could we lift this model here? Can we centralize our controls so that we can, you know, ensure that across all markets we can operate effectively? And in that way, you start to build risk again into your strategy in the same way that you build technology into your strategy. And I think that's the direction of travel, and that's what we need to be as risk professionals.
I'm going to add on again to that. I think you made a good point when we think about regulation. A lot of disrupted business models aren't regulated yet. The regulators don't know how to handle it, whether it's social media, whether it's, you know, emerging technologies like transacting on blockchain and with cryptocurrencies. And we are in a very fortunate position at KPMG that we have the technology expertise, but we also have this breadth of knowledge and credibility in the market as risk professionals to help to inform the regulators and our clients. So it's a very exciting time for us, I think.
If I can just... with the neat bow. So when I have a look through, when I'm approached by a client to talk about their payment strategy or to look at a particular issue that they have, the way I would frame it is situational awareness mapping. Having a look, if you're going to go somewhere, you're going to put into Google where do you need to go, and Google will see where you are. So too with business and any transformation. So I've been part of large payments transformations for many countries, so for 15 countries, and that starts off with the regulatory frameworks. It goes through to the rules, it goes through the technology, through to the strategies, the client products, and the way in which the client can then come back and say, this is just not working. So when you look at it from that perspective, it starts in the boardroom. What is the boardroom strategy around that situational awareness mapping? What is the boardroom strategy around integrating risk and integrating technology into the way in which you frame your customer's product? Because at the end of the day, the customer's product will be framed at what the company or the institution can provide to the client. And having that brought forward and combining everything and say, I have one picture that covers the end-to-end perspective, it's going to give them an awareness of every situation that they currently face and where they predict it will go in the future.
That's fantastic. I would really like to thank all of you for being here for this great discussion. I have one more question that I'm going to ask all of you. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I can start. I think I was so lucky. My parents were always they gave me such great advice, and I think back to growing up, and my mum had an amazing career, but she was also an amazing mum, and she was present all the time, and I actually had no idea how much she worked and what a game changer she was in her profession. And my dad as well, had a great career, but was also involved in a lot of social and community and sporting activities at very senior levels. And so I grew up in an environment where there was a lot of, I guess, balance in our house between family, between work, between philanthropy, between fun hobbies. And I really have tried to replicate that in my life now. I'm a mother of a beautiful baby boy, he's 2 years old, keeps me up at night still sometimes. I run marathons, I sit on the board of 2 charities. I have an amazing family life, but I have this amazing career. And the advice that I would give is to try to enrich your life with so many different things so that you don't get too caught up or dependent on one of those things being successful. Because there's going to be times when things are at a high and things are at a low. And like you said, when you've got multiple risk factors, if they all blow up at once, it can be a significant impact. So if your life is rich and full of many things that you are passionate about and count toward the success in your life, I think that there's a good chance that most of it's going to go well most of the time. And I feel very fulfilled and happy.
Just following on from that, I think the advice that I would give to my 20-year-old self is believe in yourself and know that you can achieve whatever your heart desires, really. I think it's not necessarily for me, but for the audience out there, it's about thinking where you want to go. I remember way back when I was a manager and my performance manager sat me down and I'd spent the last few weeks planning what I was going to say and everything I'd achieved that year, and I was setting it all out for my performance rating. And he said, Annabelle, none of that matters. What is your 5-year plan? Where do you really want to be? What do you really want to do? And he really changed my view about what I wanted to achieve and how I thought about things. And I think that really helped me. And the other piece of advice I would say, and this is personal, but I sort of removed guilt from my vocabulary. Because I think as a working mother in a high-powered sort of professional job with lots of multiple competing demands, you can constantly beat yourself up about being guilty. I'm not a good mother, I'm not going to be home for bedtime, or I'm not being good a wife because I'm not home to cook my husband's supper, or something like that, or I'm not being good at work because I'm just not there for the 8 a.m. meeting. I've got to be at the school for assembly. So I think removing guilt helps make you be better at your job and enjoy it without worry.
So remove guilt, be confident in yourself, enjoy your life. Jolene?
That's a very tough one for me. My 12-year-old self gave me a talking to. So when I got to 20, I was a very serious individual. We came from very, very humble beginnings. So there was not a lot of money to go around, and there was not a lot of things that we participated in. But I did them anyway. I decided that this is what I was going to do. I fell down more times than I can think of. And I was really hard, and still today, I think I'm really hard on myself. But if I had to give my 20-year-old self some advice, don't take everything so seriously. Focus is great. Focus is really, really great for where you want to get to and how you want to get there. But take time to step back and breathe. My son over the phone recently said to me, do you want to just take a look at what you've accomplished? single mother, very, very successful children, built a career out of nothing, but persisted and got through that piece. But it's time to take back and celebrate. We do not celebrate what we bring to other people's lives in us. Don't take yourself so seriously. The focus is great, but sometimes just celebrate with the people that you love.
I tell my daughters all the time to stop and smell the flowers and enjoy the butterflies, which is what I think you're saying. They're not always going to be there, but take time to at least enjoy life.
Ladybugs, though.
Well, ladybugs are great, too. I want to thank all of our panelists for their time today. This was a great discussion, and I look forward to continuing the conversation in upcoming International Women of Risk community events. We have launched our new Boost e-communication, which will be distributed bi-monthly. Please be sure to visit our portal page and stay up to date on our International Women of Risk news.